Natty make we chant down Vatican now. Bang the ling chant down Babylon kingdom. Natty make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom. Natty make we chant down Vatican now. Bang the ling chant down Babylon kingdom. Natty make we chant down Vatican now.
What up, y'all? It's Babylon 5 Podcast. It's your boy, Jermaine Event. Yeah, pretty sure it's recorded. I'm using a new microphone here, so I'm hoping it's recording. It looks like there's signal. I just hope it is recording. Welcome to Babylon 5 Podcast. This is episode 177, ladies and gentlemen, and unfortunately, we are calling this bad boy Slap. This episode is unfortunately called Slap. If you guys don't know, we're going to talk about Dana White and the situation with his wife. This past weekend, we are going to talk about my trip, something I'm pretty excited for this weekend. I'm excited, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited, and I gotta tell you about it. Then we're gonna talk about these fights that are coming up this weekend. We finally get some fights back. This was the last weekend without this wonderful company we call the UFC, ladies and gentlemen. So we're getting some fights back. Fight night, Imavov, Gastelum. We're going to talk about that. I think I probably already mentioned where I'm leaning in that one, but we're definitely going to talk about that fight here. And if you guys want to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You guys can email this podcast at Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this podcast, I'd appreciate that so very much. And if you guys would like to follow this podcast on Twitch, go ahead and follow us at twitch.tv/Babylon5. If you guys would like to cop some merchandise, head on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my niche, be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod. I'm getting pretty stuffy in here. As I've said, if I'm in this room for too long, I tend to get pretty stuffy, and it feels like it's happening right now. No amount of nasal spray seems to be allowing me to breathe clearly now. The rain is not gone, ladies and gentlemen. So, man, I almost didn't want to talk about this because, well, one, as I've said here multiple times, I don't necessarily, I more so wanted to discuss fights as they're happening and give predictions for fights and maybe ultimately talk with fighters and yada yada yada, but I didn't want this to necessarily be a gossip, like a MMA gossip column, like, oh well, this guy tweeted about that. I don't like to talk about the headlines, what TMZ is doing. I don't want that to necessarily be what this is, but as I've seen, as this unfolded, this past New Year's, if you guys do not know, this episode is called Slap, and over New Year's, Dana White was at a party with his wife, and just this like real grainy video is released via TMZ or whatever, where Dana White and his wife seem to be arguing, and Dana's wife slaps Dana, and Dana then slaps her back like twice or whatever. I think knocks her to the ground. with the second one, it's pretty gross. He immediately did an interview with TMZ, and they were giving him all these outs. Like, oh, well, were you really drunk? Do you even remember what happened last night? And then it's just gross, alright? And you see all these UFC fighters like Jamal Hill, all these motherfuckers like, well, these women want equality, so if you put your hands on a man, then you should be prepared for that man to put his hands back on you. That's not the truth. I mean, it's just not the truth. He could walk away. That's always an option. Walk away. I've always been a firm believer that for anybody, if you're at a point where you guys can't refrain from putting your hands on each other, then maybe you guys just need to fucking move. Just move away from each other. Nah, we're gonna stay together because we've been together for 30 years. But how much of this 30 years has been just like that video there? I forget who I was watching and analyzing. They were like, the way this interaction went down, it doesn't look like, you know, like this is the first time for either side, you know? It seems like this is a normal occurrence. This is how things go down. And Dana White was like, you know, we've been married for 30 years, so like, we've been through so much, like, and he was just kind of like saying, like, you know, like, we've been together for so long, like, shit's gonna just happen. And it's like, nah, man, it doesn't need to. Maybe what's best is that niggas are apart. You're fucking millionaires, if not billionaires. Alright? You guys don't need to stay married for the children. You're fucking millionaires. They're good. They're good. They're gonna have support from both of you because you're fucking millionaires. But it was gross. What's crazy, like, selfishly for me, I thought, like, with Dana White hitting his wife here, it was like, oh shit, TBS removes this slap fight league from their programming. And I was like, hell yeah, man, we don't even have to hear about this bullshit ass slap fight league. It's just gonna be a random inside joke in a couple years on an MMA on point videos. Like, that's what I thought that was gonna end up being. But it turns out TBS was like, nah, just kidding. We don't give a fuck. Dana just slapped the shit out of his wife, and everybody's talking about it right now. We're still gonna go ahead with this slap fight league. Alright? And we're not gonna talk about it. They refused to comment. Endeavor has refused to comment on Dana White slapping the shit out of his wife. Alright? Dana White has refused. Well, Dana White commented, but it was silly. The UFC has refused to comment. Endeavor has refused to comment. TBS has refused to comment. And I think I saw some media guys saying that they were told not to, like, I forget the terminology, the exact word, because I had to ask my wife, like, what the fuck does that mean? And it was saying, like, just not to write anything that's gonna stir some shit up about Dana, paint him in a negative light. Don't post anything basically negative about Dana. This is that stranglehold. Luke Thomas was talking about it on this one live about how, like, if you don't play ball with them, like, they will fucking lock you out of everything. You know what I'm saying? You have to fucking play ball. Pardon me. You have to play ball, or they're fucking, they'll fuck you up. They'll ruin your career. You see how they tried to ruin Ariel Helwani, but he has the fandom. People are behind him. But they'll try to ruin you. Like, I remember, when Connor had those rape allegations, or maybe it wasn't rape allegations at the time. Maybe she was saying that. I think so. The first woman claimed that she just had sex with Connor and he was the father of her child, and then like a year later, maybe less than that, there was like a rape allegation, and a reporter at a press conference asked Connor about that. Dana White steps in and like shuts that shit down, and the whole audience boos the reporter for asking Connor about his rape allegations. All right, they booed him. That's what this is how this machine operates. It operates to where we could see Dana slap the shit out of his wife, and then TMZ is like, well, how drunk were you? Do you even remember what happened? Like, that's how this machine is working right now. We can see it, unfortunately. We can see how it is. It's gross. They should shut this fucking slap league down. At the very least, shut the slap league down. What the fuck are we doing with that? But it's gross. I think the only person I've seen like Cyborg speak out, Theo Hughley, Dustin Poirier, who is someone just like at the higher end, like a higher paid fighter in the UFC. I really didn't think any of those guys would speak negatively about Dana or even speak out against what happened in any way. So shout out to Dustin for speaking out, but it's gross the amount of people I see defending Dana White and this whole thing. Fucking Molly Qerim apparently was defending Dana White, which I'm honestly not too shocked by. Molly Qerim going Molly Qerim, alright? She's pretty gross to listen to. I'll tell you that much. So, goddamn, I can't breathe. I gotta get out of here. I really cannot breathe. I'm like, I don't know if I can go through a lot of this Imavov card. I'm getting pretty stuffy. Like, I'm not into this right now. So, yeah. This upcoming weekend, I'm real hype. I took off work a long time ago. Because what I did not think, I wasn't sure when or if this would ever happen again. Like back in the day, y'all know I'm a big stand-up comedy guy. And I would say back in the day, I didn't really go to the shows when they would come to town. Because, like, most of the people that I hung out with at that time, that I thought of as friends, were basically not into any of the same shit that I'm into. So nobody ever wanted to go to fucking to the comedy shows. They didn't want to go. They're just not into it. So I would be missing niggas like Bill Burr comes to town. Miss Bill Burr. Back in those days, missing everybody. Louis C.K. missed Louis, just because, like, I don't know, I didn't want to go by myself all the time, and yeah, so I didn't go see Louis, and then didn't go see Bill Cosby either. That's neither here nor there. But then when Louis got me too, I'm like, I will probably never see Louis again, but here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Louis was here in Milwaukee about a month ago. He announced these tour dates with no Milwaukee dates, and I bought Chicago tickets, and then like a week or two later he announced the Milwaukee dates. So I wish I could have went and just seen this nigga last month, but I already had my Chicago tickets. It is what it is. I'm like, these tickets is decent, and I'm probably not finna be able to get like similar or better for the price. I mean, if I could have, I'm pretty sure, because our seats are like closer to the stage, so I'm sure I could have pop those bad boys off if I needed to, but I'm more for the experience. So I get to go see Louis C.K. Alright. Didn't think I'd get a chance to see Louis C.K. He got me tooed in that terrible masturbation accident, as I think Dave Chappelle said. But you know, and then like the nigga was doing shows, all these shows overseas in random ass countries, because he just couldn't get booked in America. And yeah, and then COVID and all that shit, I just didn't think I would ever get to see Louis live. Hopefully we all let's hope we all make it alive to see Louis. This could be one of those things. This could be like when I was buying tickets. I was about to buy tickets to see Habib versus Ferguson at the Barclays Center, and I was like, something gonna happen. I don't have that vibe right now, but I'm just saying, anything could happen. But yeah, hopefully we all make it there. I'm hype. All right, got my fucking awesome possum shirt. All right. I'm fucking hype. Yeah, it's gonna be a cool little trip down to Chi-Town this weekend, and then I have the following Saturday off because we're gonna stay down there. And then, thankfully, with having that Saturday off after getting to see my favorite comedian, Louis C.K., ladies and gentlemen, the following Saturday we get some fights. Yes, UFC Fight Night. Nassourdine Imavov versus Kelvin Gastelum. Now, if you guys know, I'm a big fan of both of these guys, right? Big fan of both of these guys. I would say one of my favorite fights of all time is definitely Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya. Easily one of my favorite fights. But if you guys have been listening for the past year, if you like the last year episode, the people who I picked to be like the toughest challenges at welterweight, the name I believe I said, or if I didn't say it, I meant it, because I believe I said Muslim Salikov. I went back and listened. I'm like, I definitely 1000% did not mean to say Muslim fucking Salikov. And he's like 40 years old. Anywho, Nassourdine Imavov. If you guys been listening to this podcast, you know I've been hyping this dude up. His last fight against Buckley got a little dicey in the end there. Buckley's dope. Alright, Buckley is dope. Got a little dicey in the end there, but my boy Nassourdine Imavov got the job done on I believe a 3-fight win streak right now. Gastelum, on the other hand, is on a 3-fight losing streak. He is 1-5 in his last 6 fights. This is middleweight. I don't know why I said welterweight. Oh man, I can't breathe. And that's my point there, though. I was like, this is middleweight, not welterweight, which is why for the longest I felt like Kelvin Gastelum has fought undersized in the wrong weight class. He needs to be fighting at welterweight. And this fight here is just going to be the same old story that we've been seeing with Gastelum. He's going to get in there with 6'3" Nassourdine Imavov. 75-inch reach versus a 71.5-inch reach advantage. Reach, not advantage, disadvantage. Like, this is the same story that we've been seeing over and over again. Kelvin Gastelum is 1-5 in his last 6 fights. And he's not been as active over the course of time as Nassourdine Imavov. I think, as I said, this is just going to be another display of Kelvin Gastelum is fighting in the wrong weight class. And plus, Nassourdine Imavov is a fucking killer. He's a goddamn killer in middleweight. I've hyped up this man. I told you guys, all the champions are going to have a Vav or some shit at the end. Shemaev, Hamzat